things. So a couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I did a video kind of talking about local scene. And I was thinking about it the other day, and I don't remember everything I said because I haven't watched it, but I was kind of thinking about how to be involved in your local alternative subculture. So, as I've mentioned, I live in Salt Lake, Utah, or thereabouts, and there is a surprisingly strong goth scene around here, and I am really, really glad of that because growing up, I didn't know that there was one at all. I didn't get into the gothic subculture until the tail end of high school, and I think my senior year of high school, the majority of my concept of goth was from Repo the Genetic Opera and Emily Autumn, and that was kind of it. And so I was really fudging my way through it. I didn't really understand it very well. I didn't really know any of the music. But now as I've gotten older and slowly gotten more and more involved in a lot more of the music and more of the films and more of the fashions and done a lot more reading, and I have a more rounded idea of what goth is, I actually started going out into the local scene more, and there has been a group mostly propagated through Facebook called Batcave SLC, which has been doing events and been a good way of keeping everybody in the loop of what alternative music groups are coming through the area. So I've ended up seeing a lot of different bands come through Salt Lake that are surprisingly good. KMFDM and Skinny Puppy and The Cult, and Echo and the Bunnymen and The Cure, and a lot of smaller ones too, like The Creepshow and Necromantics and The Rain Within and The Secret Light and Voltaire and stuff. And so I've seen a bunch of these different alternative musicians come through. I do know that a lot of people don't necessarily get very good concert attendance in their area. It helps to be in a more metropolitan area, but sometimes a trek can be worth it. When I was at school in Savannah, there were never any shows to attend. So if I wanted to attend music, I would have to go to another city. I went to Atlanta several times, which is like a 4.5-hour drive away, and once to Charleston to see AFI, which was about a 2-hour drive. But now it's only like a 30-minute commute, if that, and so I can just drive home afterwards. But when I was initially getting into the scene, being on the younger end of the spectrum, I was very uncomfortable and very self-conscious, and I didn't think that I fit in. A lot of the people that are within the local scene have been in it for quite a long time, and at first I thought that I wasn't welcome or that they had some cold shoulder towards me or whatever, and then I realized, no, it's just that within alternative subcultures, especially with goth, they're used to being kind of made fun of or excluded or all these different negative things from general populace, and so they're a little bit wary and have a tendency to be a bit guarded, or they're just like, oh look, it's new blood. Are they going to stay, or are they going to be here for 5 minutes and then be out? And so it's kind of interesting being on the younger end of the spectrum within a gothic subculture, because I am 25, which is to say I'm not young, but I'm not old either. And so most of the people I know are in their 30s or later. And that's kind of what I think of as a normal age. And I don't know a lot of people that are my age, and I know very few people that are younger than I am. But when I was a teenager first getting into the subculture, I didn't know most of the music. So I didn't meet other goths because the only goth musician I listened to was Emily Autumn, and I only ever attended one of her shows in Salt Lake when I was in high school. When she still had pink hair before she started doing Fight Like a Girl. And so I just didn't really know that many people. But I did end up meeting a lot of alternative people through the Playgrats. And if you have ever at one point in time been a fan of Emily Autumn, you know what I'm talking about. And so I did meet a bunch of alternative types through that scene, and I'm still in touch with several of them. But then as I got older, especially after I turned 21, I could go to 21 plus venues. A local one, Metro Music Hall, which is also a bar, has a lot of artists come through that I really enjoy seeing. And that was one of the main reasons I ended up noticing a lot more people. So as someone who is very introverted and have to force myself to go out, because if there's a choice between going out and staying in almost always wins. So I have many acquaintances. I don't have a ton of friends, but I do have a lot of acquaintances and a lot of people that I am on first name basis, can actually remember their name, Miracle of Miracles, out at concerts and have people I can talk to, hang out with, and socialize with. And even as an introvert, I do need socialization every so often. One of my old tattoo artists actually introduced me to several local people in the scene, which ended up being the members of the band Tragic Black. They seem to be pretty popular in Germany, so for my German viewers, you probably are familiar with them. But they're really nice guys. At first, I thought that there was some animosity towards me, but really I was just misreading the situation. They're super cool people. And it's really nice to kind of go out and see these familiar faces and kind of catch up. And even if they're just concert friends, they're still friends, because that's kind of all I want, is this set period of socialization. It works well for me, and that's not necessarily the same with everybody else. But I've had a lot of people ask, well, okay, this is my first time going out into the local scene, and I'm really scared. What do I do? And I've noticed the number one icebreaker that you can do, even if it does kind of scare you to do it, is if someone looks cool, tell them. That is the number one thing you can do, is compliment people genuinely on their appearance, because it's kind of like a flock of birds peacocking a little bit. You know, everybody gets all dressed up, especially to show events, instead of just like a DJ night at the local club. At show events, people have a tendency to get a little bit dressed up because most of the time they don't have an excuse to. And so if you see someone looking cool, tell them. And next thing you know, you might have a conversation. Don't just sort of stand around awkwardly in the corner, because you're not going to get anywhere and you're not going to feel comfortable in the long term. And I noticed that I've gotten several friends, or several acquaintances really, within the scene, because I've genuinely complimented on their appearance. Like, don't be a dick. And don't panic because someone looked at you or something. Like, go and talk to people, even if it is a little scary at first. And I don't like necessarily going out of my way to talk to people, but if someone looks cool, then I do want to tell them so. But experimenting with your look and going in a way that's comfortable for you instead of what you think looks goth is also important, because if you just go out and be like, okay, what do you wear to a goth club? PVC pants? We're gonna do it. You're probably not gonna be very comfortable. Like, I wore PVC pants for the first time at a Covenant show, and it took 3.5 years to work up the nerve to wear PVC clothes in public, because it doesn't make me super comfortable. But it worked that time. Wear something that makes you feel comfortable with yourself, and generally speaking, people like that far more than if you're posturing, or wear something that's very off the rack, what is commonly referred to as mall goth, which looks too Hot Topic or too Spencer's or whatever, something that looks a little bit too much like what you think goth looks like. Don't do that. Go for something that you like. I know that I've picked up several books, or a couple books anyway. This one was a fun one from Barnes & Noble. It actually covers a lot, which is The Art of Gothic, which covers a lot of musicians in the scene and a lot of different styles and everything. This is pretty good. I mean, you also get a lot of different subgenres and different artists that are featured with Gothic leanings. So that's kind of a fun place to get ideas. But if you wanted to see some more like typical 80s goth, also including my lovely friend Cinnamon in here somewhere. I know she's in here, I just can't remember where. It's also a good way to kind of get ideas of what people look like in the scene over the years. Because everybody has kind of different ways of approaching their look within the scene. That's one of the reasons I appreciate it so much, is there's a lot of the DIY, there's a lot of the experimenting, there's a lot of the really crazy makeup looks, and you shouldn't have people copycatting each other too much, because everybody looks a little bit different. There's my friend Sin. I miss her. But she was certainly one of the sweetest people I knew. But she was telling me that picture got lost in a flood several years ago. But anyway, I've met a lot of very interesting people in the scene that have been in the scene for 30 years. And it's really cool to talk to elder goths as a young goth myself, because it's really fun hearing about venues that are no longer around, such as Confetti's, which was actually an all-ages alternative dance club. It was kind of kiddie-friendly, like a lot of teenagers would go there. And I am a little sad that there isn't a venue for teenage goths to kind of explore, because I think that was one of the reasons why I got into the scene so late, is there wasn't a way for me to branch out in it very well. I did not go on the internet very much in high school at all, and didn't really explore the wide world of goths until college. But I know after I turned 21, I realized that Salt Lake wasn't as horrible as I thought it was before that age, because I could actually socialize. But my scatterbrainness, as always, gets me a little sidetracked. My whole point is, if you want to get involved in your local scene, support it. Batcave SLC has done a lot, and it's really cool to see people working together to keep this alternative community, to keep this group of people around. And I don't want to see a scene die just because people didn't want to put in a little bit of effort. But if you have some kind of alternative scene in your area, do try and participate in it if you're interested in it. Don't neglect it, because then it'll just go away. I keep having too many people tell me that they don't know any goths in their area, and maybe there just aren't any, or maybe they're the Tolkien town goth, or maybe they just haven't looked. I just never know. I know when I was in Savannah, there may have been a lot of goths around, but there were no musicians. I know so many musicians now, it's actually a little bit perplexing. But a lot of artisan types end up in this scene, people that are creators, who are creative and have a tendency to, I guess, also be introverted, will always end up at the same place, and you'll get these events that end up being full capacity venues, which is always impressive, and I love seeing that, and I love seeing these people, even if it's just every few months. I mean, the last time that I saw a big group of people all together of the Gothic leaning was at Gary Newman around Christmas time, which was fantastic, and I was ecstatic. And I guess I'll be seeing a very similar crowd at Front 242. And sometimes you will get those bigger gatherings, and sometimes there will be the smaller gatherings, but just showing up means all the world. And trying to connect with people also means a lot too. It'll make you feel a little more true to yourself, instead of just self-isolated, like maybe you don't belong, or you think that you're trying too hard with your look. Anyway, I babble and probably lose my point. Hopefully this means something. As an aside, people might have noticed I've been doing less frequent video postings, and now instead of doing it every week, I'm doing it when I have the inspiration to. So if you see less of me, I'm not gone unless I say I'm gone. So I'll just be posting every couple of weeks, every 3 weeks instead of every week. Sorry. As I lose inspiration, this is all I got. Till next time, Darklings.